Hello, this is Roger Steele. I'm the facilitator for a 6-week self-study asynchronous course for World Vision East Africa region that runs from the 18th of March through the 26th of April 2013. This is the weekly video for the third week of the course, or almost halfway through, and this is the first part. I'll have two parts again, 3A and 3B. This part will focus on the administrative side of things and talk about the assignments, and the other part will focus on the content. So that's the way that they've been organized, and let's get going into the slides. I just want to remind you by showing you this slide that you should be keeping up on your assignments. You have an assignment for taking the practice or the sample exam, and I'll mention that in a little bit. Again, I explained that last week, so if you aren't sure what I'm talking about or haven't been successful, then be sure and go back and watch the video from last week. That would be primarily 2A. And if you're having problems, perhaps because of internet, then you'll have to try to arrange to take the exam when you can find internet available. Be sure and keep up on the readings. I have actually taken the readings and updated them, the actual pages, so that you can now know that they're synced fully with the guide. I think the pages that I had on the original guide, which are the ones that are crossed out here, probably were from an earlier version. So be sure you get the updated guide, which is now on the central desktop course website. And then be sure and be watching the videos. This week the topic is project planning, and you should be up and through module 4. And then I'll talk about the course assignment, which is this week to construct a work breakdown structure based upon the project that I asked you to identify last week. And the main topic for today is project scope, which is expressed through the work breakdown structure. Let me start out by just reminding you about the parameters, the guidelines for taking the PMD Pro1 practice or sample exam. And I think even if you took it last week, you probably should take it again, because it's really good to get used to it and to practice for the exam. Plus, when you miss a question or if you're not sure, it's an indicator that you should go back and read some more in that section. I'm not going to go over these 12 points again. They were on the slide from last week, but I just wanted to make sure that everyone is aware of the need to be taking the practice exam. Now, if you'll remember last week, I asked all of you to identify a project, a very simple project, and the criteria are actually were explained last week on the project that you'll actually be working on through this course. I could only find 3 responses, so I'm going to assume that the last couple of weeks being pre-Easter and Easter week, that probably some of you were on vacation and didn't get yourself mobilized, but that you'll try to get caught up this week. So I look forward to seeing more. So kudos and stars go to these participants, Miles, Lawrence, and Nicholas, who actually posted what their projects will be about. So I invite you to have a look at those and then come up with yours as well. We'll be working with these projects through the end of the course, and we'll actually be adding to them each week. So be sure you get caught up. Now here's the assignment for this week, the second week of the PMD Pro Course project. I'm sorry, this would be the third week. I didn't update the slide for that, but it started in the second week and it's going to the third week. This week I want each class member, or I told you last week in the criteria that you could work in groups of 2 and even 3, not larger than 3. I want you to build out a work breakdown structure this week for the project you chose last week. So again, watch my video from last week if you need a reminder about the criteria for choosing your class project, and here are the guidelines for building your work breakdown structure. I'd like you to do it manually using a paper or a flip chart. You could do it on a computer using Word or Excel or another program if you want, but often when you're learning, or at least to establish your competence, it's good to do it manually, and then actually I'll be asking you to convert it to a software program format next week. So you'll be using it next week, and this time it'll just be most useful as a learning exercise, and I want you to do it manually. So I like everybody to do that, or if you're in a small group of 2 or 3, do it in your group. Now, some find it easiest to use post-it notes, and that would be then writing one activity, one task, one subtask on a single note. The idea is that then you can rearrange those notes according to the levels and groupings of the WBS hierarchy. So especially when you're working in a group, that's a great way to do it, because then I would say you brainstorm all of the tasks, activities, tasks, subtasks, and then you can arrange them after you've brainstormed them. Because if you start to arrange them too soon, sometimes you lose track, forget what some of the details might be. When you're doing the WBS, don't worry about the sequencing or time allocations. Those will come later. We'll talk about those next week, but it's important to get the detail, to make it detailed and comprehensive. Those are 2 words that you'll be reading a lot about this week. Okay, use the graphical format. The book talks about the graphical and the indented format. I think for the practice it's good to use the graphical, even though they're the same information. And then if you can, take a photo of your product and post it on Central Desktop so that others can see and comment. And if you post them there, and I'll try to have a look at them and comment on them as well, and some of the other lingos staff might also be having a look. So let me know if you have any questions about that. Your final product then should look something like this. This is a very simplified, simple one that was done by a group that listed all of the tasks related to filling a vacant post. And so you'll see that they put the name of the project or the task up here at the top, and then they had the highest level of this is kind of the activity grouping. So one activity grouping is the job, another one is the candidate, a third one is the selection. The software that I'm going to show you next week actually will ask you to do milestones, where you actually will put in these boxes what it is you actually intend to produce or have done by the time you finish all of these activities. But it's actually the highest clustering of the activities. And then you go down to the next level. In the case of filling a job vacancy, for the job you have the need, you have the job specifications, probably the job description, and then under that you'll have other details like budget, options, approval, etc. Under the candidate, you'll have to attract the candidate and then shortlist the applicants, and then all the details under there. And then under the selection, you'll have to do the interview and the post-selection. So that's the levels of the WBS. Now, when we teach this class face-to-face, we do an exercise where we ask the participants to list all of the activities and or work related to planning and conducting a half-day workshop. And so what we usually then ask them to do is they come up with something like this. So you could imagine that each one of these is a post-it note or has been written on a post-it note. So you've brainstormed all of the activities. They're not arranged in any order here. And then after you've brainstormed those activities, you'll then try to arrange them into a hierarchy. So this is our project, half-day workshop, and this is the highest cluster of work activities to arrange for the facilitator, to arrange for participants, to arrange for venue and equipment. And then the detail, this is highest level detail. I'm sure there'd be a lot of other detail under here, but this is just using the information from the previous page. Related to the facilitator, you'd have to identify, invite the facilitator, arrange the facilitator's transport, and then have the facilitator finalize the timetable. For the participants, you'd have to identify the participants, prepare invitations, send the invitations, arrange participant transportation, prepare registration sheets, prepare certificates, and prepare evaluation tools. And then you'd have the venue and equipment. That involves selection of the venue, equipment, handouts, making payments, etc. So that should give you an idea of what we have in mind. And not this week, but next week then we'll be doing the other steps, which would be activity sequencing and preparing of a Gantt chart, but not this week. Just wanted to give you a glimpse of this. This is actually one that looks like what I've been doing for the course on Central Desktop, and I'll actually be having each of you using Central Desktop as well, but I'll explain that more fully next week. So that concludes the first part of the third week video, part 3A. Remember, I'll be coming back with the second part, 3B, that will cover some of the content from what you've been reading about. So just let me remind you as I close that you should finish studying modules 1 through 4 by the end of this week, Friday the 5th of April. And please contact me, preferably by asking a question or putting comments on the course website, lingos.centraldesktop.com. So I look forward to seeing some of your products. Thank you very much.